Welcome back. Got a great video for you today. I'm going to be talking about the three main nutrients for healthy plant growth. So these are the three nutrients that plants need in the greatest quantities. There are other nutrients that plants require. We call those the micronutrients. These are the macronutrients. These are the ones that plants really require to really get healthy. So what are those three main nutrients? Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Okay, that's what we call the NPK, right? You see this on your boxes and bottles and bags. It's that little three numbers there with hyphens, and that stands for the percentage of the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium that are in that bag. That's what we call the NPK. And so this gives you an idea when you're buying fertilizer or nutrition for your plants. It kind of gives you an indication of what you're actually giving them, how concentrated of nitrogen is that, or phosphorus, potassium, or what blend of that is. You'll see a lot of different mixes out there. They might be even, like a 1010 or 16, boom, 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 or they might be 008 or 05, 6. It could be, and there's tons of combinations out there. They really depend upon the kind of plant you're growing and at what are you trying to do with that plant, like at what part in its life cycle. For instance, all right, so with nitrogen, what nitrogen does is it's going to be good for all your leaf growth. It makes plants leafy and green. Nitrogen affects plants in a way where it's their chlorophyll and their cells really require it for their functions. And so when the plant has a lot of nitrogen, that's going to further along that plant's leaf development. You're going to see plants green and bushy and really dense when they get a lot of nitrogen. This is really, an important nutrient for when you want to cultivate lawns, because basically what is a massive lawn? A bunch of leaves, right? Or if you're fertilizing just a hedge that isn't going to be flowering, right? That's just a ton of leaves. Or if you want a tree to grow big and strong, right, early on, that's going to be a lot of nitrogen. But that's not to say that the other nutrients are important as well. So with phosphorus, that's your P. That's going to be really good for your fruit, flower, root development. And so if you want, big, healthy, robust flower buds, like say roses, or fruit development, like on your fruit trees, or vegetables even, right? Those require a lot of phosphorus. And so you're going to want to make sure that you apply that to your soil, to your plants, when they need it or before they even need it, because that's going to be, phosphorus is really good for your roots, fruits, and flowers. Is kind of how I kind of like to remember it. And then of course you've got your K, your potassium, right? It's your last one. And so what that one's also good for is potassium really affects plants and their ability to transport their plant tissue to transport water, nutrients, carbohydrates. So when plants have good access to potassium, they're going to do that much more freely and a lot more easily. It makes them a lot more less susceptible to disease. It also makes them a little more tolerant towards stressful situations. So scientists and studies have shown, to my understanding and from what I've read, is that when plants have a solid source of potassium, that they are more resilient to stress and they are more disease resistant. And so it can be a great nutrient, kind of for humans, kind of like we always talk about vitamin C in our immune system. In a way, I kind of feel like that's kind of potassium's role for plants. But maybe I'm making a false comparison, but it kind of seems that way, where it kind of really helps improve a plant from getting sick in the first place and having issues. It's also good, I believe, with early root development as well. So those are the three main nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. That's your NPK. Now, like I said, these aren't the only nutrients you're going to want to consider when you're growing your plants, but these are the nutrients that plants need in the largest quantities, and so they're really important. Maybe we'll come back and we'll circle back and we'll talk more about the nitrogen cycle and sources of where we get nitrogen, where we get phosphorus, where we get potassium. In this video, we can talk about it right now. Is that with nitrogen, all these you can get synthetically, right? There's synthetic sources where human-made, we can create these, and there's also a lot of organic and more kind of close to natural ways that you can get these. Compost, for instance, contains a lot of these nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, probably as well as potassium, but definitely nitrogen and phosphorus. But that's really going to depend upon what you're feeding that compost. Not all compost is created equal. They're all a little different, right? They all have different fuel sources and food sources that you kind of add to them. And so you're going to want to consider that. But compost that has had a lot of vegetable and fruit scraps is obviously going to be high in phosphorus. If it's had and so you can compost is a great source. Obviously, there's fish meal, bone meal. Those are all the things that are going to provide a lot of these nutrients as well. Kelp is really great, and I believe potassium that you can get from green sand, and there's a lot of other sources naturally that they come from. I would suggest to you go down to your local nurseries, hop online and start researching nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, because the more you know about it, I think it's going to give you an edge in your garden, kind of give you a better understanding of how to approach your fertilization, whether it's your house plants indoors, potted plants, or your outside plants out in the ground, or even hydroponics. Nutrients are just a huge part of growing, and I feel like when a gardener becomes a little bit more aware of that, then they start, thinking kind of more ahead about what they're going to feed their plants, what kind of nutrition you're going to provide them. There's, you can go synthetic, you can go liquid, you can go fertilizer, you can go organic, and so there's a lot of different methods with synthetic fertilizers. In feeding your plants synthetic nutrition is, or from a synthetic source, it's usually like faster acting. Typically, they can make slow release synthetic fertilizers, absolutely, but usually the benefit for a gardener and the draw, say for you're growing tomatoes or something at home, or roses, some will use synthetic because it's instantaneous gratification. It's right away. Typically you'll see growth or results pretty quickly. With organics, it's sometimes often the results are a little slower. Hey, thank you, Bear. Quiet, baby. With organics, it takes time. You've got to build up your soil quality, and so there's more of an investment there. And so, so there's a little bit different, but both, there's quality in both, and you could argue either way. Maybe we'll leave that up to you. Let me know in the chat, in the comments, how do you like to fertilize? What do you fertilize with? What are your preferences? Because I'd like to know. You could teach me something. But for today, I hope you learned a little bit about nitrogen and barking, phosphorus, and potassium. That's your NPK. Those are the three main nutrients that plants need. And you'll probably hear that a lot. Like I said, when you go to the nurseries, you're going to see this a lot. And as you grow, it'll become more and more important to you, because if you want to spend that time in the garden, you're really going to want to have great results. And so why not educate yourself a little bit more on what to feed them? Because just like us, when humans get fed, our nutrition improves. That makes a massive, can make a massive positive change on our health. And plants are no different in that regard. And that if they have good access to healthy nutrition, it can really make a dramatic difference on the quality of their life as well. And so from our garden to yours, happy gardening, best wishes. If you found this video at all enjoyable or helpful to you, hey, please be a gem, be kind, hang with us. This is a tiny channel. Hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you hang with us. I mean, who's ever been at a channel and watch it grown from like zero? I mean, this channel is so tiny, I think it's literally like my mom with like 30 different subscriptions. But hey, hit that subscribe button, come back with us. We'll talk again, and we'll talk more nutrition, more plant growth. Until then, I got to go back to work and play with my dog really quick. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Bear, you are a jerk.